All right, welcome back to Cosmic Lion Radio. We are here this week with the one, the only author of such books as Serious Creatures and Lumen and Augmented Fourth. And we're here with Tony McMillen. What's up, Tony?
Hey, friends.
Tony's here, and we also have a group of friends joining us. We have Chris Anderson, we have Jerome Cabanatan, we have Rick, and we have JoAnn McMillen, another aunt of Tony's. More
JoAnn.
to join us later. Friends and fam, welcome. How's everyone doing? All right, word. Hell yeah! Great to have, great to have everyone here. Was that Aunt JoAnn? Welcome, guys. It's so good to have you here. Welcome back to the Town Hall with Tony McMillen. We're going to talk craft. We're going to talk books. We're going to talk everything in between. So I guess we'll start where every great conversation about art or a creator starts, and that's going to be influences. What are some of the influences? Where did you get all of these great ideas from, Tony? And Sue, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm having a little trouble. My job, I got kicked off work today, so
well, welcome to the best part of your day, then.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're just talking with Tony about his inspirations and what got him going.
It's all Aunt Sue. Aunt Sue taught me everything I know.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. No, I do. I could be wrong, but I think in the summer of '89, I think Aunt Sue, we went and visited you, and you took us, I think maybe to see the Batman movie. I think that was you.
Yeah, it was me.
Well, check it out. So this is pretty fun. So Batmania hit America, '89. It was everywhere. And I think the reason that this is important to me is that was the reason why the Batman book, Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, was in a bookstore. And Aunt Sue, I believe, bought it for me, even though I was age 9, and it was very inappropriate. It was full of a lot of stuff I should have taught. And that led me on my path. So Aunt Sue, it's actually pretty great that you're here, because that was a huge seminal book for my imagination and everything I like to do. So
it's amazing.
I remember that little bookstore. That was kind of a cool comic place. You liked that place? That was a bookstore?
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny. I think a lot of other people have this too. I took all these comic books home, and my mom, trying to be nice, wrote my name on magic marker on the front of them. So when I went to school, no one would steal it, and it ruined everything. Right. Yeah, but awesome. I think like a lot of people, I'm a child of the 90s and 80s, and so I have a lot of the comic influences are all the Image guys, Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson, and some of the X-Title guys, Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee and stuff like that. But Frank Miller, yeah, Liefeld's definitely in there. But Frank Miller was probably one of the first influences, and he still, I think, actually, I could see his presence in what I draw. Like some of those other guys, I think I've shed a little bit. I still love their work, I just don't see it as much. But Frank Miller's something about his work. It could be really crude and maybe even grotesque at times, but it's really powerful. It's almost like a cave drawing. I just I like that.
I see that in your work too, for sure. Like stark shadows too, as well. And like the blockiness of some of the chins and features that you do, especially with that chisel tip.
Yeah. I think the blockiness is definitely from Miller. At least that's the source point, and then it's kind of mutated or whatever. Yeah.
What about, you were telling me a little bit about Rob and the Robservations podcast, how that's been kind of propelling your creativity recently?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because so Rob's got this podcast, and I was like, well, Rob talks like a machine gun, and I'm sure it'll be fun, but it might get a little bit much.
It's tough sometimes.
Oh, I'm way in. He actually, I was listening today, and he had a guest on, and eventually the guest spoke, and I forgot the guest was on there. I was like, who the hell is that? It's been 30 minutes. and so, lately, Rob, the big thing with Rob is he broke into the industry, I think, age 18, maybe 17.
Yeah, super young.
And doing my book, Serious Creatures, is about a kid who's 14 working in Hollywood. I've been thinking a lot about how being a young person in a big professional field like that and how daunting it must be. And, I'm nearly a 40-year-old wonderkin, so I don't have that experience. But I've always wondered what it would be like, because I think I think Rob Liefeld, you know, people detract from his style, but he's achieved so much, and especially at a young age. And so I'm kind of riveted. So I'll ride my bicycle because like I said, I'm getting old, so I'm trying to, you know, fight getting fat and being old. So I'm riding a bicycle, listening to Rob Liefeld, and it is really inspiring. And
gets you hyped up when you're biking, you know, trying to keep up with his pace.
He's like 50 years old, and he has more enthusiasm, I think, than I had at age 18 or 15. Like he's like a battery. It's a car battery. It's insane. So yeah, I'm not somebody who gets like writer's block usually, knock on wood. So I'm usually I kind of churn around with ideas, but lately that podcast and a few other things have got me really kind of going, and it's fun.
Well, it's interesting too with kind of tracing your career, your work and stuff. It's interesting to see that you kind of started a little differently. You started doing journalism and doing stuff like that. I think, Rick, you had a question that kind of pertains to like this, the way that you started and moving from journalism and prose writing into cartoonist. So let's hear from Rick.
Well, so like I've only known of you like this past year, so I've only known of you as an artist. But Ben was talking about your book, An Augmented Fourth. So then that well, basically, I'm not sure of the order. So did you start writing as prose and then move into writing comics and other people drawing them, and then you started drawing them, or how exactly did that work? And like what? I mean, I get why you would want to, but I was wondering like what made you decide to just do it yourself.
You basically
I couldn't imagine anyone. Sorry, I couldn't imagine anyone else
good.
drawing your stuff. It's really unique, and like you know, like when I see your stuff, it's like that's Tony. You know, I know right away. You know.
Thanks a lot, man. That's really it makes me feel really good because that's what I'm hoping for. That I think that the best I can offer is I have a singular style. Whether it's good or bad, it is me. So that's, you know, the best I can do. But anyways, you're basically right about the trajectory, but I've been fighting doing comic books my whole life, you know, they're what I love the most, which is really silly. So essentially, I used to draw, as a kid, of course, and I would draw comic books myself. And around like 15 or 16, I got into playing guitar, and I started pursuing music, and I was in a band, and we had a really good time. And I still write music, I still play music. And I stopped drawing as much. And then eventually, I also love literature, and I started writing prose. And I kept thinking, like, well, comic books, they're too hard. I can draw, but I can't draw a comic. There's too many angles. It's storytelling. I think I could draw like a guy in a pose, but it's not the same thing. And so I kept going, can't do it. And so what's funny is by the time I was doing my first novel, Nefarious Twit, I was making the novel, and the novel is about a famous children's book author, like a Shel Silverstein, who disappears, and then later his son wants to find him and murder him. It's really cheerful. But I kept thinking it'd be kind of neat if within that prose novel there were some illustrations from that guy's books. It would kind of open up the worlds, and it's a nice little thing. And I was like, well, I can do that, because if it's a kid's book, like Shel Silverstein, who I love, they're not the most amazing illustrations. There's a lot of heart to them, and they're beautiful, but they're you don't need to have a fine art technique or anatomy or anything like that. I was like, I can approximate that. Yeah. So I did that, and people really respond to it. And I kept thinking, well, someday I'll do a comic book, you know, when I get better, and I get better. And then I did I did a graphic novel with an artist named Catalina Ruffin, and it was called Oblivion Suite. And Oblivion Suite was sort of our love letter to Pink Floyd and prog rock and heartbreak. And Catalina is an amazing artist, and I was really happy to work with them. And I was the writer on that, and it also taught me how I did everything wrong, basically, as a writer. I put too many words. And Catalina held my hand and made it the best it could be. I'm really thankful for that. And so after that, I was again like, I gotta try this. And I'm like, I was drawing more and more, and I was getting more into illustration, and I was starting to draw just for myself, little comic strips and ideas. And then eventually I was like, I'm just gonna do this. Like if it's really bad, I just won't show anybody. And
at least you did.
So yeah, and I showed somebody anyways, and that's what we have. No, I did a book called Lumen, and part of what Lumen was I was like, well, drawing realistic things is difficult because you have something to compare it to. So if I drew a bus and you go, that looks nothing like a bus. So if I did a sci-fi landscape, a very fantastical world, you know, it's more dreamlike. You have less to kind of judge it against. And so Lumen was me. I'm just going to draw the things I think are easy and fun, which was basically a guy with a helmet. You barely saw his face, weird landscapes. It was like easy street in a way. And I had enough confidence after doing that. I was like, as the series progressed, I was like, I'm going to do some more stuff and more realistic stuff. And that's kind of what brought me up to today. But it's funny, like, I think there's that Nirvana quote. He's like, I'm worst at what I do best, and for this gift I feel blessed. And I kind of feel like, yeah, I'm not the best at anything, but I think I'm pretty, at all the stuff I try, I think I'm the best probably at comics, even though I have a lot to learn, and I kept fighting it for some reason, which is weird. Did that answer you at all, Rick? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, totally. I just wanted to know, like, basically if I was on the right track, because, like, as I was, like, talking to Ben about it more, he was telling me about your prose book, and I'm like, well, shit, like, I didn't even realize he had a prose book, too.
The second one's good. The first one, I don't know. Augmented Fourth, though, I figured some stuff out. Well,
Yeah, man.
Well, this ties into all this stuff, but what I really learned, now that I'm 38, what I finally took me this long, I am a slow learn. Like, it takes me a while. But what I figured out, the first novel, Nefarious Twit, in a lot of ways, when I was really young, and Aunt Sue probably remembers this, I wanted to make movies. I wanted to be Steven Spielberg. That was my first real big dream, besides being a farmer. I think I wanted to be a farmer, and I realized it was a lot of work, and I was like, I don't want to work. So I'll do this instead. But like, Nefarious Twit, my first novel, in a lot of ways, that was I was a screenplay that I kind of transmogrified into a novel. And that's why actually that's the one thing I'm going to probably rewrite someday and republish, because I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done to it. But by the time I finish that, I start realizing the best you can do with any medium is to really embrace it. It's like they say, like, you know, the best comic books, they're meant to be comic books. Like Watchmen it utilizes and it uses all the tricks that comic books are made for. So by the time I did the second novel, Augmented Fourth, I realized for me, like, oh, this is why I want this to be a novel. This is why it's not a comic book. This is why it's not a movie. It should be a novel. It's about a character's voice. It's about the tricks you can only do with a novel. And so I applied that to my comic books too. And like Serious Creatures, my new comic, was originally a short story, and it was okay, but it never really sang for me. And then I kept thinking about, what if I could do things with the visuals? What if I could tell a story in a comic book way, and it really opened it up. And all of a sudden, it's like it clicked in. It's like when you're singing off key, and all of a sudden you go, oh, that's an E or whatever. It's like, okay, that's what I was supposed to do the whole time, and it just kind of clicked. And like that's when I realized it had to be a comic book.
Well, you've been able to kind of work in all these different things that you love. Oh, is that everything, Rick? Did you get it?
Yeah, totally, dude.
All right,
yeah,
cool.
totally.
I should have said yes, Rick. That was answering your whole question. Yes, you're right.
Yes.
Sorry.
In doing all that, you're able to incorporate so many of your loves, like these analogs that you have in your stories, to like movies like Jaws or to bands like Pink Floyd. And I was watching a great interview with you by a book where you were interviewed by some sort of sentient book. Yeah. Very good watch on YouTube, y'all. But they were talking about too, like there's a Saucer Full of Secrets or something. You like spoofed one of the album titles too, like
A Troubling of Goldfish, I think is what we came up with.
Oh yeah.
We were pretty proud of that one.
Well, so what do these analogs mean to you, and what does it mean to be able to use these ideas in your stories, but then kind of like create them, make them your own?
Yeah, I think that the thing I love about analogs is that it's the best of both worlds. So I can use history and real people or pieces of literature, and I can exploit those or utilize those, but I don't have to be married to them. I can change things. I can make composites. And so like with like when I was a kid, I loved The Simpsons, and I always really appreciate they did like Dredrick Tatum instead of Mike Tyson. Yeah. And so there's a little more freedom. Like you can make him do something that Mike Tyson would never do, which is there's a very short list. But I thought that was really, there's a lot of freedom there. And so with my stories, I kept thinking I've never been somebody who's like, oh, I have a great Batman story, or I would love to do Star Wars Part 9 or whatever. I always thought of my own thing, and a lot of times my own thing was sort of a derivative riff on something, but eventually it's like a stew. you know, if you follow a recipe, but then you keep on tasting it, go, oh, a little more of this, a little more of that, a little less this. And then eventually it's nothing like the recipe, but that was the starting point. So I love that kind of process. And Serious Creatures in a weird way was a creative, it was a present to myself, as a reward, because it's unpublished, but I've written 3 more prose novels called Higher Climbs to Fire. It's a big trilogy. Oh. And in a lot of ways, that was there's no analogs in that. It's like I want to try to just think of my own ideas. There's no base of anything else. And so I did it. I think it's probably my favorite thing I've done. I haven't published it yet. And so after I did that, I was like, oh, thank God, that was a lot of work. I'm going to go back to analogs and having fun with pop culture and playing with that. And so Serious Creatures was like diving right back into the deep end on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a cool thing about, oh yeah, we got Sam up in the house. What up, Sam?
Hey, I'm glad I made it. I thought I missed it. I texted Tony a little while ago. I'm sorry I missed it.
Before the show, I was telling Eli, I didn't say your name. I was like, somebody said they missed the show, but I think maybe it was a polite way of saying I'm not going to go to it. So you showed me up.
I was thrilled I didn't miss it. And I got a question, if I could just jump in with it.
Totally, let's do it.
Yep. Yeah, well, I mean, you got such a unique style, and I was wondering how much of that is you consciously developing it or just falling into it naturally?
This is going to sound weird. I think it's somehow both. And what I mean is, I think a lot of times as I'm drawing, I will accidentally do something. I'll go, oh, that's cool. And when I think that it's cool, and I think that I'm like, I don't know, like if I know anybody else is doing that, or I don't know, I can't pinpoint like, oh, that's Eric Larson's Knuckles or whoever it is. I can't pinpoint that. I go, well, keep going down that path. It's sort of like walking in the dark. And if I see one little thing of light, I'm like, I'll just follow that and see if that gets me somewhere. And when it does, I think those are successes. And so I think that's what's helped me. Like, I don't know. I think I talked to you about this a long time ago, Sam, or maybe somebody else, but basically, recently I could follow my influences when I look through my old drawings. And like, there was a brief period where I was like going for Jeffrey Allen Love, who's an illustrator, who's done amazing stuff. I was like, there's at least 4 months while I was like just aping him. And I've never done it that nakedly, aped anyone. And I even showed, I'm just going to say, Jesse Lonergan's a friend of mine. He's an awesome artist. And I remember I sent him like, I did this thing. I was like, I think I'm ripping off this guy. And I sent him Jeffrey Allen Love. And Jesse was nice. He's like, you are, but you know, there's you in there. But yeah, you are. And I was like, no, that's not cool. And so like, what I realized is like, that's cool. But I gotta stop doing that because like there's like a cliche, but I could be the number 2 Jeffrey Allen Love guy in the world. I could never be the number 1, even if I somehow perfected his style because he originated it. It's him, and so I'd rather be. It's like Paul McCartney and John Lennon. Love them both. Paul McCartney has technically a better voice. He can sing in different ways, and a lot of times he kind of imitates people. He can do a Little Richard like nobody else except for Little Richard. John Lennon's voice is a little more distinct. He doesn't have the same range, but John Lennon sounds like John Lennon and no one else does. And I'd rather be John Lennon in that sense. So I think that I purposely try to cultivate anything I think is original, even though it's, you know, original is like, I probably forgot what I'm ripping off, or it's been so mixed up that just kind of the wires get crossed. But that's what I'm pursuing now whenever I draw.
Cool. I mean, yeah, you're definitely the number 1 guy at being Tony. So you got that going for you.
There's some kid somewhere. He's like, oh, let's just go sideways with those chisels, whatever. And I'll be out of the gig. Yeah.
It's you said that Nirvana quote, but there's a good quote that I think Bill Graham said about the Grateful Dead, where he says they're not just they're not the best at what they do. They're just the only ones that do what they do. Something like that. So
well, yeah, there's like another rock and roll thing I think of a lot is Keith Moon. Keith Moon's like he's the number 1 Keith Moon style drummer in the world. And
true.
Yeah, that I'll be fine with some sort of moniker like that. I mean, you could say what you want, but like that's kind of cool. I don't know.
Yeah. Jumping off that a little bit, I'd like to read a write-in question from our good friend Benjamin Granoff, who is not here right now as he is celebrating the new year. Lashana Tova Tiku Tevu Ben, wherever you are. All right, so this is his question for Tony. Hi, Tony. Longtime listener, first-time caller. People often call you a creative wizard. I think because your visuals are illusory, your output prodigious, and your talents range across various disciplines. Bet.
You're gonna throw a lot of big words at me. I'm gonna take them as disrespect.
Yeah, dude. That's just the first paragraph. It really isn't hard to imagine you finding ways to put an effective and personal spin on whatever you put your mind to. Your creative spell casting really grabbed me recently as I read your excellent novel, An Augmented Fourth.
Don't ruin this for me, Eli.
Read this book, huh?
Don't ruin this for me. Okay, this is really nice.
This is very nice.
Yeah.
Everyone should read this book. It's Almost Famous meets The Thing, and there were several times for a split second where I found myself wanting to Google the fictional musicians, albums, and songs that you weave into rock and roll history. Then I would Google references to classic slash heavy metal music theory, and then I Googled a reference to Darjmanian people, and the only hits I got were references to your other novel, Nefarious Twit. What the fuck, man? I know a magician can't reveal his tricks, but why you gotta mess with my head this way? Can you talk a little bit about the seemingly shared universe slash alternate reality building you're doing here? The Lord of the Low End? What's the end game here? Will your Mark Twain's Dune book be a part of this sequence? Is Attaboy a fun little palate cleanser between epic projects? Also, I'm not sure if you have been asked this before, but what kind of pen do you use? Thanks, Ben. Wow.
Why is he not here? This is amazing. Yeah, it's
He just took all the questions.
he's a sweetheart. Ben's my new favorite. I described him earlier as like a nice mogwai I just want to hold. He just looks furry and gentle. So
he's a big fan of your work too. I feel like he's really like dove in deep since we had you on the Grendel cast.
Yeah, it's really nice. He sent me a thing like he bought my novel Augmented Fourth. I was like, thanks, that's really nice. I would have sent you one if I had an extra one. So yeah, basically what he's saying is true. Like all my work is sort of a shared universe, and it's not some huge overarching plan per se. It's more like Stephen King used to like. If you read all his books, you start noticing, oh, that's a sheriff from the other novel, and that's all it has to be. You don't have to have you don't have to read each book to kind of understand the other one, but there's little links. But the thing about Darjmanian culture is basically in Nefarious Twit, this is I think that even my laziness breeds creativity somehow. So I was like, I want these characters to come from like an interesting background. And I was like, I don't want to research anything. I don't want to actually talk to anyone. I'll just make it up. I'll make up a culture. I'll make up an island. I'll make up a whole history. And I made this place called Darjmania, and it turned out to be a lot more work because then I had to realize, like, where are they in history? Like, what happened? Did the Turks override them? Like, what do they, how do they interact? What's their currency? What's their language? So it turned into a whole thing, but I liked it. And it was like, it started out with System of a Down being Armenian. And I was like, oh, it'd be cool if like they're Armenian. And I was like, I don't want to actually research Armenia. And so I made my own offshoot, and it went crazy. And so now a lot of my novels will have Darjmanian characters or references. That's one little link, but it is all linked up. And so even Serious Creatures, it was actually I couldn't find space for the written part of it, but on issue 3 in the back cover there's a Star Wars poster, and it's a foreign Star Wars poster. There's a fake language on it. It's their Darjmanian Star Wars. It's Turkish Star Wars.
Oh, nice.
And so there's always something that links them. And so my big trilogy, which is called the Bleeding Tree Trilogy, and the first book's called Higher Climbs of Fire, which I refer to as Mark Twain's Dune, it links everything even more explicitly. Nice. And so the stuff in Augmented Fourth, and Augmented Fourth is linked to Oblivion Suite, the character we made, which is our David Bowie kind of analog, Frankie Gideon, who Catalina Ruffin and I created together. I've included them in Augmented Fourth after our graphic novel Oblivion Suite. And Catalina, I don't know if it was a full book, but they put them in another comic strip, and I think that's kind of great. And yeah. A lot of my work has to do with multiple dimensions. So the best thing is I don't have to worry about continuity. I'm like, well, this is Frankie Gideon A, that's Frankie Gideon B, Frankie Gideon C. So I'm really, again, I'm being lazy, but it also kind of makes me look like I have a bunch of ideas. But yeah,
I would never think that was you being lazy at all.
Well, then it's working.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Another big entire country would be more difficult.
It was a big mistake. It was a huge mistake.
Series Creatures, let's talk about it for a little bit.
Cool.
Some of it's autobiographical, I guess. Some of it's from your life. There's pieces here. Also, obviously, you said it's Rob Bottin, based off of his kind of creative story that influenced you. And you said there was something about the famous Monsters magazine in there, a specific story that
yeah. Again, I'm extremely happy my Aunt Sue is here because again, this story sort of revolves around here. I wasn't planning this. Awesome. So here's what's going on. I believe my sister Allison was 15, and Allison went to live with Aunt Sue. Aunt Sue lived in Ohio, and we lived in Arizona. If Allison wasn't 15, she was 16, something like that. And anyways, my sister moved across country, and so before she left, I'm 4 years younger than my sister. Before she left, you know, we were pretty close, and I wanted to like assuage her fears that, you know, we would still stay in contact. I'd see her again. We're very dramatic children, and so my most prized possession was polybag copy of Spawn #1. And this is like it for me. And so I very earnestly like told my sister, I was like, this is the most important thing I have. I want you to have it for a while. And when we see each other again, you can give it back to me. This is proof that I will see you again. And my sister was very touched, and she took it and went to Ohio, and I promptly bought another copy and never told her that just to hedge my bets, because I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. So in the comic book series Creatures, what I took from my own life and put it into the story was that the main character, Bobby Feckle, his most prized possession is a copy of Famous Monsters magazine, and he gives it to his sister Lainey when they split apart and move across country, and the same kind of scenario happens. And so like I never even wanted to, I don't think my life's interesting, so interesting I could make an autobio comic, but I like to put little nuggets of my my life, even if it's just a feeling I've had at certain moments in my life, and extrapolate that and blow it up and just inject that into my stuff. So even if my story's about like a cyborg whatever or something crazy, it doesn't make any sense, you know, there's moments and there's emotionally it's actually about something that really happened to me, even if you don't know it. And I think that somehow the reader will feel there's something genuine here, even if it's insane.
Well, it's those types of things like that you can't make up. You know, you can't make up these type of life experiences. Like even if you wanted to, sometimes they're just too kind of not necessarily far fetched, but it's like you just couldn't make it up, and there's no other way to say it.
Yeah, I remember like Grant Morrison had this thing about when he wrote We Three, which is about, you know, three animals who get experimented on, and they're in these weird robot suits, but it's a cat, a dog. It's basically Milo and Otis, but with
and
robots.
A rabbit or something.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the cat hates a dog, but they love each other, or whatever. Yeah. But there's he talks about how when he's writing it, he's crying because he feels it, and then the readers talks about how, you know, there's somebody on this documentary about him talking about how when they read it, they cried, and he's like, "That's good. I wrote it and I cried." And I'm like, and I think there's sometimes you can't fake genuine, and that goes both ways. Sometimes something's really bad, but it's earnest, and you can go, "Well, I mean, they meant it." It's at least there's that. At least it's better than a calculated, really well put together kind of work. So I think my work in general is pretty earnest, for better or for worst. Yeah,
that's great. It just goes to show a creative mind, I think, that is able to well, yes, that is able to pick out those elements and see them for what they are, and then filter them through like the story, or, you know, I don't know. It's an ability to harness all the parts that make it special, you know, not only the magazine, but the feeling, and getting that onto the page is tough sometimes.
Thanks. I hope so. No, I thought it was nice.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, honestly, Ben, I don't even know who Ben is anymore. You're kind of number one again.
There we go. Suck it, Ben. Just kidding. No, I love Ben. What's the difference? Well, okay, let's do this. A big part of Cosmic Lion Radio in the past has been talking with creators, not only about their creations, but about the music they listen to and what goes into their creative process, what they're listening to during that creative process. originally we were just going to do a podcast, and we turned it into a town hall. But I still want to get into some of these musical choices that we talked about.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of music in your work already. It's already something that's super, that goes through everything. So what does music mean to you in your creative process and in your books? And then let's talk about some of these songs you chose for your mixtape.
Yeah, sure. On a practical level, especially when I'm drawing, it's nice to have music in the background. And sometimes when I'm writing as well, I'll listen to the same song 30 times until I finish something because I want that one feeling. I wrote, there's a scene in Nefarious Twit. I listened to Bob Dylan's "A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall," I think for like 5 hours.
Oh, wow.
And it's just this really, this one feeling. I was like, I got to keep chasing this feeling. And, you know, I love that song, but for a while after that, I was like, I don't want to hear that song ever again. But it's a long song. But
that's super interesting, though, that
you just kept only had to listen to it twice.
Yeah, that's good. Shit, I just said that. No, yeah, it's true. But it's music. I think there's some quote. I forget who said it, but it might have been Nietzsche, which is really weird. It's kind of nice, but it's like music is proof that that God loves us or something like that.
So be happy. Ben Franklin actually said that.
Was that the beer thing though?
Oh yeah, it is beer. Yeah. I had that on a lighter one time back in the day.
Yeah, there you go. The point is, like, music is like, I think, or no, actually, is it Shakespeare? No, somebody said like all art aspires to be music or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
And I buy that. Like, I think music is so immediate and ethereal, and it can mean so much. And so, listening to it while I'm drawing or writing, sometimes it's really helped me open up some place inside me that I need to go to. But also, like, there are definitely different moods, and so sometimes, you know, I'm drawing if I'm drawing a really intimate, funny scene, I'll listen to some like cool Dixieland jazz. It kind of gets me in a kind of a whimsical mood. Or if I'm writing something really dark, I want something maybe a little more oppressive or whatever. So I try to tailor it to what I'm doing.
Oh, that's awesome. One of the tracks that stood out to me, well, it's interesting that you were talking about how Lumen was inspired by a Legend of Zelda book. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so you wanted to kind of create like a video game book for a video game that you made up.
Yeah.
And one of the songs that you selected is a Dixieland jazz version of Super Mario 2, which is amazing.
I want it played at my funeral.
Oh,
we almost had it at the wedding. I had a jazz band at my wedding, and they basically like, we'll learn like one song for you, and it was between this and the Indiana Jones like trumpet theme song. And I know my wife Taylor loves that song, so we chose that, which is the right song to choose. But if I had two songs, I'd choose this as well. Like, it's I'm
gonna see if we can if I can't get it working. Let's share it in the cast here so that everyone can enjoy a listen. All right, let's see what we got. Let's see, how should I do this? Sharing the screen.
Cool.
All right, can you guys see it?
Yep.
What about here?
I mean, how could you feel bad after that? Like, I hummed that to my daughter. And I think she likes it.
It's such a great song. You know, Mario 2 doesn't get the credit it deserves for, I don't know, being a video game, I guess. But
no one can take that away from it. It is a video game.
That's absolutely true.
No, Mario 2 rules. Doki Doki Panic Forever. But yeah, that song is something I just always kind of feel good when I hear that song. I don't know.
Everyone's full of smiles. We can see it right now after watching
Right.
that. I love that song. And tell us about some of the other ones that you chose.
Okay, so I've been in rock bands. I sing and play guitar. I'm also this is not exaggeration. I'm an award-winning karaoke artist. So I was in a Tucson newspaper. We won a contest. Me and my friend Paul. We sang Prince's "The Beautiful Ones." No, wait, I'm sorry. When Doves Cry. That's when we did it. So yeah, we tore it up. But my go-to karaoke song is actually "On the Dark Side" by the John Cafferty and Beaver Brown Band from the movie Eddie and the Cruisers.
Wow.
So Ansu knows what's up. So what's funny is like this actually, in a weird way, this film was kind of inspired me a lot because Eddie and the Cruisers is a fictional rock band. It's about a lead singer who mysteriously dies in a kind of Jim Morrison, James Dean-esque way, and then maybe he's back and he's haunting his ex-band members. So the song is basically like the best Bruce Springsteen song he never wrote. It sounds like when you hear it on the radio, you're like, that's not Bruce Springsteen. It is not, but it should be.
It's a great song.
Yeah, I love it so much. And also, when you sing it, it's not that hard to sing if you can kind of pull off certain things. So I can do it. So what's important to me with the song, though, this is kind of crazy. I was, I think, 18. I worked at Blockbuster Video, and I eventually worked there for 7 years, which is too long.
Wow.
But this is before that, so I wasn't like 11 working there. That'd be amazing. I was like a Charles Dickens novel, like, please, I'll rewind this for you. No, so I'm 18. I quit Blockbuster. I worked at Circle K for a graveyard shift for 1 week, and I was like, I can't do this. I hate this. Something's wrong in my life. I need to.
Was there trouble afoot there ever?
No, people stole beer, but my boss is like, the thing is, we insure each individual beer. So if a guy steals a 12-pack, we make more money off the stolen beer than the sold beer. So don't stop them. And I was like, like, I'm not gonna be in harm's way anyways, dude. So like, that's fine. So anyways, I quit Circle K, and I was like, what am I gonna do with my life? I was like, what do I want to do? And so I was watching VH1, and On the Dark Side came on, and I always known the song. And something hit me, and this is really crazy. Something hit me, and I was like, I need to see my estranged father. I've not seen him in 6 or 7 years or even spoken with him. I need some resolution. I need something has to happen. And so I put in the plan this crazy thing where I saw my sister a few days later. I went through her stuff, and I found her address book, wrote down his address in Ohio. I lived in Arizona. I told my mom that me and my friend Joe were going to go to Alaska for a week to just do something. And she's like, sure. Honestly, at home, things weren't going great. Things were kind of in flux. So she was breaking up with her boyfriend. So we were moving houses. So she had a lot to worry about. And so she's like, well, you're 18. I mean, okay, I guess, whatever. I got my father's address, got a Greyhound bus, went 3 days on a bus because of Eddie and the Cruisers song.
Wow.
Ambushed my father at his house, had not seen him in 6 or 7 years. I was 18, so I looked a lot different. But the craziest thing is he lived on the second, or at least there was a window or a glass door. And so I climbed like a drain pipe, and I kind of got to his top porch, and it was unlocked. So I went to his house, I rummaged through his house, and eventually I was going to leave, and I came out on the porch, and he was parked with his wife, and he looked right at me and goes, because his wife was like, oh my God, who's this guy? He goes, that's Tony. He didn't see me. I'm like, I had a mustache, which is impressive. I looked a lot different. And what's crazy about that is like, so that there's more to that incident, but that entire incident was sort of the central catalyst for my novel Nefarious Twit, which is about an estranged father and a son. And when I was writing that book, it took me 6 years. When I was finishing what was going to be the last draft, my father died, and I was 26 then, I think. This new book, Mysterious Creatures, the father is also an estranged father figure, and in the book, I'm not going to spoil too many things, but Bobby Feckle, the main character, finds his dad's address from his sister's stuff, breaks into his dad's house, rummages through his books, and as he's leaving the house, his dad sees him. And something I took from my Aunt Sue, I think this, he's your brother, you know him. He always said like stuff like "Hey babe," like kind of like a beatnik kind of cool guy thing, like a hep cat. And in Serious Creatures, he tells his son, "Hey babe," and I always remember that. And so that incident with my dad, it's really strange. Like, this weird pop song spurred me to just like have this huge, like gigantic moment in my life, which I am still kind of dealing with the aftershocks of almost age 40, which is crazy.
Wow, man.
Yeah. Also, greyhounds, do not take them for 3 days. It's not good. I don't care how old you are. It was pretty rough.
What an amazing story, man. That's amazing. Yeah. And here you're saying that you don't have enough life stories to make a book after. I feel like you do.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. It's in the Nefarious Twit book, the main character likes to rip the last pages out of books he finds just to be a dick, basically.
Yeah.
I ruined my dad's library a little bit. I found a few of his books and ripped the last pages out. I threw it's funny because like through my whole life, I didn't know him too well, but people would always go, "Oh, you remind me of him," And in some ways that was good. In some ways I kind of got resentful. I was like, "Well, he didn't raise me, so I why would you say that?" But when I looked at his library and his albums, it was pretty much what I love. And so I found a copy of Ray Bradbury's Martian Chronicles on his bookshelf, and I snatched it and threw it into his yard. I have no idea if they ever found it. Like, what? I didn't tell him. I was like, "Hey, dude, by the way, I kind of lost my temper for some reason at your books."
At your books.
But I was 18 or 17, maybe. I think it was 18. Yeah.
That's amazing. You want to take a listen to that song? I've never heard the song. I'm surprised by this.
It'll make you drive across country and hit your dad. Yeah. I didn't hit him. I'm not lying.
He's at Temple too right now. Should I drag him out of Temple? What are you? Well, I guess he's in Zoom Temple, so it's just at home.
There you go.
Can you guys hear it?
No. Oh shit! There we go.
The dark side's coming out.
Nice, dude. He kind of looks like a young Michael Showalter in there a little bit.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, it's one of those things. Again, like it seems wrong that that's not Bruce Springsteen singing that song to me.
Yes.
The sax solo, it's like that's not Clarence Clemens. Like, what's going on? It's insane.
Who's that on bass? Pino Palladino. Do you know him?
Yeah. I do not know.
Bass player. He played with John Mayer Trio too a little bit.
Okay, so is he older dude then, or is he still? Yeah,
he's an older dude. Yeah,
okay.
But he's like a real good jazz bassist. Look kind of like him. I'll have to find out. Oh, Chris left us. That's all right.
That makes sense.
He was so pissed at Eddie and the Cruisers. No, I'm just kidding. Does anyone have any other questions that they want to ask Tony? Jerome, yeah. I figured, man.
Yeah, man. So, Tony, like as much as I like seeing your when you do like the digital with the, I think it's like the rosette brush or something, where you're just going around. Like I like seeing that, and like seeing your scrape and stuff. But I do like seeing you play with your daughter. I think that's like the coolest thing. But I know you've gone you've gone on record saying like that you really don't like your books really aren't for kids, right?
Yeah.
But your books, but like with things like with Attaboy, where I think you said there was going to be something completely different, like from all the other stuff that you do. Like I guess that's why you can do so many things, right? It's what did Ben say? It was like a palate cleanser. I was wondering, like, are you thinking about maybe going that route, like go like a children's book, going that route? Because like I don't know, you've touched on pretty much everything. You have a novel, you have graphic novels. You can like you probably know how to do magic too, right? Like a couple things, right? You're a couple things, some stuff like right, dad and uncle stuff. But I just
I can cook.
Can you talk about that? Just about like doing different styles of stuff.
Yeah,
right? Thank you. Anything that comes up, then because you're a writer too, so like how much do you play on like intuition versus like your structure? You know, Like, you want to touch on that for a bit?
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for all the nice, kind things. So Attaboy is going to be something different. I don't think it's going to be kid oriented per se, but I'm not opposed to that. I actually I've thought about doing some children's literature because I actually love a lot of it. I'm a huge shell servicing fan. I like where the Wild Things Are too. There's a lot of great books. Also now
in that other interview too, you said
a Robert Munch guy.
Sorry, Jerome. What'd you say?
No, I said, are you a Robert Munch guy?
No, who's Robert Munch?
Oh, Robert Munch. Oh, Robert Munch is like Canadian children's, but it's Canadian. I Love You Forever. That heartbreaker of a children's book.
I haven't got it. I've got Olivia and a few other kids' books with my daughter, which I'm enjoying, and I'm relearning.
That's the pig, right?
Yes, it is the pig. She likes ballet and Jackson Pollock paintings. It's wonderful. But yeah, so I'm not opposed to doing that. I got to think of the right story. I don't want to force it. And actually, there's somebody I know online, Jed Alexander. Jed Alexander does children's books and a few other things. He actually does a few issues of SpongeBob SquarePants. He does comics as well. He's nice. Yeah, he does a children's book called Red, which is a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. It's fantastic illustrations, and the story it's told in a lot of these 2-page spreads. And what's really cool about his retelling is that Little Red Riding Hood is a giant wolf, and it's like, oh no, and then in the background there's all these other woodland animals with presents, and like there's like a skunk with like a present, and like some chipmunks with little things. She gets to her grandma's house. The wolf is having a party. They're having a big party there. There's a birthday cake. It's all for her and the grandma. It's a really nice, like, fun twist, but it's beautifully illustrated. So that's an art form I would love to do. But I think it's kind of going back to what I said before. I realized that you have to figure out the best way to tell any story. And so something should be a movie, or something should be a comic book, or something should be a novel or a short story or anything. You got to figure out what's the best way to. Don't try to push a circle into a square cylinder or whatever, You got to find what it wants to be and then try to help it do that. And so it took me a while to get that, because I would try to kind of force things and it never felt right. And so like everything I do, I like to just, I think if I'm not having fun doing it, it'll show with the work. And also, I still have a regular job. I'm not doing this for a living. So I might as well have fun if I'm doing this in my extra hours, And so Attaboy is like, it's so far it's gonna be really weird. It's a video game. It's a video game manual for a game that doesn't exist, but it's also this really weird personal story I'm telling, and it might be about Mandela effect and stuff. I don't know. It's becoming its own thing. But every project I do, I don't exactly have an agenda. I kind of have a movie trailer in my head, and I try to make it achieve at least the feelings I felt when I think about all these flashes of ideas. I'm always chasing that. It's like falling in love. The first time you meet somebody, there's it's fireworks. It's big. It's huge. It's great. And that's awesome. But of course, then you have to work on things and make things, you got to listen, you got to work, you got to find out more about each other. And that's what a project is in a weird way. You have to figure out what's up with one another. Does this work? Well, I have something to work on here. I don't like this about you. I don't like this about you. And then if it's a healthy thing, you continue the project, and then eventually you finish it, hopefully. But yeah. So a kid's book someday. But I also don't. It's got to be like from the heart. Like I hate when like rock stars will have a kid and then they have a song with their kid. It's the worst song on the album. Like that poor kid. It's like, oh, I don't want that. Like the Beatles are good. The Beatles are pretty good. That like their kids actually. John Lennon was a terrible father, but he used his kid to write a couple good songs. Like Hey Jude.
Hey Jude. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, Lucy in the Sky of Diamonds. He ripped off from his kid's painting apparently. Yeah. So he was good at that. But like there's some bad examples too.
So are you gonna wait until like your daughter can like read and then get the book ready for her when she can read?
I'm gonna see if she's like, if she's worth writing something for. I don't know her. I don't know her yet. She's fine. She's fun. I don't know. It's funny actually. She loves books now. She's really into books, but she's also into eating books. Like just trying to yeah. So it's been real interesting because like she like will literally devour literature. So
edible books.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually I went to a New York Comic Con years ago, and on the way home I was on a Greyhound, and I thought of this a story about a moon. It was moon so big, so bright, follow me all through the night. And I was like, that should be. It's like a weird poem. I was like, that could be a kid's book. In my mind, I always go to Shel Silverstein. I really thought they're very evocative, simple drawings, but I think there's a lot to them. And so I love to do something like that. Something that's kind of sad, but also sweet. Yeah. I think kids need that. I don't know.
Yeah, like Shel Silverstein, Silverstein was like, it was a dose of reality. Right? It wasn't, yay, lived happily ever after. It was like, oh, the tree can't give no more because you asked too much. Stop being so greedy.
Right, and he also had like the meanest mug like kids author photo in the back of his books. That was terrifying. Stark black and white, and just like Stanley Kubrick stare for no reason. It's like, this is a book for children, sir. Like, what are you doing? Like, but so I want to do that. I want a big picture of my face looking really mean. I'll give it to my daughter, and she probably won't talk to me.
Shel Silverstein's such an interesting character as far as like a life goes, and he wrote the children's books, but then he also wrote like on the cover of the Rolling Stone the song, and he wrote like
Johnny Cash song, Boy Named Sue and stuff. He
wrote that too.
Yeah. And you listen to it, it's like, oh, it's kind of like one of his weird stories.
Yeah, it's such a good story.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You mentioned there for a second about cons, and I know we're all missing going to cons this year. Did you do a lot of work at cons? Were you selling your books at cons before times, or how was that situation for you?
Yeah, it's funny. I should do more because almost every time done a con, it's gone really well. I've sold out a few times. I've sold out at Boston Comic Con years ago, before when I had my novel Nefarious Foot, before I even had a comic book. People, I sold out, which is a great feeling. I'd even warn like kids, it's a regular book. There's only a few drawings. It's all words, and the kids be like, that's okay. I like words, and so I still sell it to them. I've tried to talk parents out of buying my books. Because it's not for kids actually, and they're, oh, it's fine. He likes Stephen King. I'm like, okay, like I don't want to be in trouble here. Like, this is you. I've done my due diligence here. So, but when I started making comic books, I've done really well. Mice is the Massachusetts Independent Comic Book Expo. It's huge, and I went there last year. I sold out. Made a bunch of scratch. Made a bunch of fans, and actually had my favorite con experience in general has been at that show, which is last year. And so basically it's funny, this experience doesn't revolve around selling anything. I was also drawing, because I can draw pretty fast, so I was doing ink sketches and just give them to people if they want them, and some people like to come over. It makes people come over to the table, but it's also, there's no obligation. It's no big deal. Mm-hmm. And so I was drawing something, and I'm trying to remember what I was drawing, but I heard this like distinct 13-year-old boy voice go, "That is sick." And so I looked up, and there's a little 13-year-old dude, and he was really mesmerized by what I was drawing, and which was nice. But he also started talking to me, and he's a really smart kid, and he talked about like the things he liked, and he's like, I like drawing too. I hate drawing backgrounds. I'm like, yeah, backgrounds, they're not the sexiest thing, but you got to do them. And he's like, I got this idea. I'm gonna have my friends draw the backgrounds, like this whole like manga studio thing, and they'll do the backgrounds. I'll do like the figures. I'm like, well, you could do that, but maybe you should just draw the backgrounds. But anyways, he told me he liked Zelda and he liked Ganon, and I was like, I can draw Ganon, man. Like, what kind of version of Ganon do you like? And we had this really nice exchange, and his mom was there, and I was thinking, I was like, this is kind of why I'm doing this. I just want to like a young kid saying this is sick, like, and just meaning it when I drew something.
Yeah.
What else do you really?
It feels really good.
It's so real. It's like, yeah. Like it really was this really touching moment, which is really silly. There's this little skatery kid. I was like, hell yeah, thank you. It felt great. And so that was my highlight. That's my best con story probably.
It feels really good because sometimes you're like, am I the only one that thinks this is cool, or like, who am I creating this for? Like, what's my audience? It's sometimes hard to break out of the creator mind, and that was a great thing about tabling at a con, is like you really kind of can draw people in. You see their reaction immediately to your work. I did it kind of too when I wasn't very developed, and I could see the look on people's faces when like you know, they would look through my binder and be like, this is a good piece, but then look through my binder and be like, that's mediocre. And so you kind of can like see, I knew it was like, you know, mediocre, but you can kind of see these ways to like understand, here's where I need to get better, here's what I can do good, here's what I'm already doing well, and what people will react to.
Yeah, it's funny. I've done stand-up comedy too, and this is the closest to like stand-up comedy you know when you're doing really poorly, right? And you'll know very soon. It's pretty brutal. And I've done well, I've done not so well. And it's one of those things, like even at a con, I was like, well, thank God it's not like stand-up comedy. When when bombing on a joke it's so rough, because like stand-up comedy, even if you have 3 minutes, which is actually a lot of time.
A lot.
You don't realize, like, oh man, I've done the first minute so bad. I have 2 more to do. What am I gonna do? Oh please, let's let this end. With drawing, it's like, well, this is not so good. Next piece of paper, let's start over.
Scratch it out.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. And I was gonna tell you real quick my worst con story.
Oh yeah.
It's still pretty lovely. I was invited to do this con. It was the first year, and I got to do 2 oh my God, what do you call it? Like 2 TED Talk type of things. What do you call it?
Like a panel or something?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, panel. So one of the panels was like, how to finish your project. And I was like, I'm pretty good at this. I finish things. I think that's actually a really important thing to learn. It seems pretty simple, but plenty of people don't finish anything. And even if you you have a great, like 10 great unfinished ideas, they're not anything. They're not finished. So my thing was about that, right? And so I only had like 3 people show up, which is already bad, but that's fine. So doing my spiel. One of the people in the audience is a young girl, probably 15 or 16, and I was like, any questions? And she had her hand raised. I was like, thank God she has a question. I was like, yeah, what's your project? And she started describing it to me, and then I didn't interrupt her, but I waited till she's done. I was like, I asked her, I was like, is this homework? Is this high school homework you're asking about? And she was like, yeah, I had this paper due on like history, and I was like, I can't help you finish your high school history project. I thought maybe you were writing a book or a comic book or something. I don't, just do your homework. Just do it. Like it's, does your
That's
mom
the advice.
and dad?
Do your homework.
Yeah. And she seemed like, I guess he's got a point. I'm like, yeah, what are you doing here? Like, so that was the weirdest moment. I was like, I don't know what to do here. This is why am I here? This is crazy. It was still funny, but it's like,
that's great.
Yeah. So hopefully she got an F.
Dang.
And so I didn't mean it. I hope she's doing great. I hope she's in college. I hope she's doing awesome.
Now, it's been great chatting with you, Tony. Now, one of the big things, obviously, that we're here to talk about is your Kickstarter that's going on for Serious Creatures, the collected trade. Tell us a little bit about why you decided to collect it, why you decided to Kickstarter it, and then pitch it out to some of the people that might be listening and who don't know about it.
Okay, so I recently finished 6 issues of a comic book series called Serious Creatures, and I sold them on Etsy, and I sold them to subscribers and random people, and I kept selling out, which is great. It's a great feeling. Eventually, it makes a lot more sense instead of reprinting the 3 issues or 4 issues that have sold out, or all, at this point it's almost all 6. It makes sense to collect them, and I enjoy collections, so I decided. I could just make the collection and do it myself and not go through Kickstarter, but Kickstarter is a nice way to make a lot of fuss.
Yeah.
Get the word out there. I've done Kickstarters in the past, and so I decided I haven't done a Kickstarter in 7 years. Let's do it again. And I'm really, really lucky. People from Cartoonist Kayfabe, Ringside Seats have really come through, and a lot of other people too. But it's already reached funding day 2. And so now it's
awesome.
Now it's all gravy. Now it's all extra money to go to drugs.
Spend
on, but no, yeah. No. So what's great now is like I'm still the money's fine, but it's actually more about more readers, more people, and getting the book into more stores. And that's one of the things, getting into more shops. So I have different tiers for different shops, like little retailer incentives. And so what's cool too, it's also international. And I've sold the book internationally before, but it makes a lot more sense for somebody. If you're going to pay $30 in shipping because you're from Sweden, you might as well just get one package of the whole story. And so that's been really fun to have different readers from across the world who are into it. And also for me, I'm doing this big deluxe collection. So there's a bunch of behind the scenes, some process stuff, how I made this comic book, I'm doing this really extensive digital download, which is called the Cartoonist Commentary, which is me walking through page by page all the Easter eggs, all the weird references, the personal anecdotes. It's really in depth, but I think it's pretty entertaining too. And so that's going to be included with the comic book, and I think it's the best thing the best comic book I've done, definitely, and it's been a blast. And so if you don't know what the story is, essentially Serious Creatures is about a 14-year-old kid named Bobby Feckle, who in 1974 wanders onto a set of a movie being filmed in Martha's Vineyard. It's a movie about a shark attacking a small town, and the movie's called Finn, because I don't have the rights to Jaws. So Bobby, he wanders under, he's really into monster movies and special effects. He becomes an apprentice for a guy named Jack Barber. And so Bobby at age 14 starts working in Hollywood and making monster films and making special effects. And despite that sounding insane, this is essentially what happened to a couple different guys in the 70s. And the chief one being Rob Bottin. Rob Bottin was a guy who did the effects for The Thing, The Howling, Total Recall, Legend. He started at age 14. He was a guy who he did some illustrations, and somebody looked at him and said, "This is really good. You should work with me." Wow. And knowing that, I couldn't help but go, that would be an amazing life. And so this is my, I'm taking his career as inspiration, my own life, and then complete malarkey, throwing it together, and it becomes Serious Creatures. And the book's about growing up, coming of age stuff. It's about family. It's about funny, weird, like workplace comedy stuff. It's about movie history. It's this is the rise and fall of practical effects, and practical effects are what helped fuel the film revolution of the 70s with films like Jaws and Star Wars, which went from the 70s auteur filmmaking into blockbuster filmmaking into kind of where we are now. So you kind of see the rise and fall of an industry that, for better or for worse, changed everything.
Very cool. It's such an interesting idea for a comic too, and especially, you know, in a field that sometimes is dominated by the superheroes or the zombie feature. But it's an interesting thing to look at, you know, Hollywood, and to look at behind the scenes of a movie. You know, I've never heard of a book like that. So good on you, man. You found a niche, and you got it.
If I find out there's another book like this, I'm gonna kill the person. I don't even care.
I would do the same.
I work too hard.
I did the same when I found out recently that there was a similar book to my own about an intergalactic band, and I was like, no.
But you killed someone?
I
Eli,
had to.
don't just
I really
admit
had to. Well, it's only on the Zoom. What stays in Zoom?
Word.
You know, what happens on Zoom?
Aunt Sue. Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions? Aunt Sue, do you have a question or anything?
Aunt Sue knew Devo. If you're a Devo fan, Akron, Ohio, Aunt Sue knew Devo.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I did. They, in order for them to get started, they had, in this little restored area in downtown Akron, they rented a shop where they sold rubber stamps. Rubber stamps were real popular then for kids, for adults. People bought rubber stamps. I don't know why. I don't know how, but they were wildly successful selling these rubber stamps. Wow. But the little known story, how they really made their money, was they wanted to record, and they wanted to rent recording space in at Kent State in one of the recording rooms. And back then you could go, probably still, and rent recording space. But they didn't have any money to do that. So my friend and I, she was a groupie with one. I could have cared less about a bunch of guys with flower pots on their heads. Completely outside of my realm of understanding, but I was along for the ride.
Yeah,
right.
So we had a Tupperware party for them, and we invited everybody we knew, because that was the only thing that back in the dark ages, in the late 60s, early 70s, that's the only thing that we could think of to make money, because they were wildly successful back then. So we had a Tupperware party and invited everybody we knew. This poor woman, I'm sure she probably ended up in an institution somewhere. Sold hundreds upon hundreds of dollars of Tupperware that night. Other things happened that she just closed her eyes to.
Yeah, right.
That was how they got their money to do their first recordings at Kent State. So that's my little brush with greatness there. Yeah,
that's amazing.
You made rock history. That's amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. And I seen this part of the story, but anyways.
That's the next comic book right there.
I was just gonna say, you got to add that in.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'll give him some other like touch points he can spend.
Love it.
Oh, that's awesome. All right.
Tony, and I love you. And I'm so glad I didn't want to miss tonight. I've been having Wi-Fi problems all day, but I was determined.
Nice. I'm glad you could make it.
You made the whole thing. I love you too, Ann. So this is amazing. Thank you. I'll talk to you. So I'll actually call you.
I see Uncle Pat was on there too. He was by phone, I think. I see him on the side there. So
Okay.
I think he must have.
Yeah, Uncle Pat and I are both listening the whole time, honey. We're very proud of you, and especially of your newfound talent of being such a wonderful father. So
That's all the internet. Don't buy into it. No, thank you. Thank you very much.
we love you, kiddo.
Love you too.
Very nice. Thank you all so much for being here. I would like to dedicate this podcast to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who we just lost moments ago. Much love to her and her family, and thank you so much for everything you did for all of us.
Yep.
And the battles you fought so bravely. So much love to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Thank you all so much for joining us and for joining Tony. Please check out his Kickstarter. How long is it going for? How much longer, Tony?
20 days, I think. 19 days, something like that.
All right, cool. So get in there while you can. Pick up one of the sweetest and best new books. Thank you all so much, Cosmic Lion Radio. Until next time, y'all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Eli. Love you, Ann Sue.
Love you too.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys, so
Bye.
much.
Love you, Aunt JoAnn.